Hello, everyone. This is Angel Aviles with another episode of 30 Inspiring Women. Welcome, Panquetzani. Panquetzani breathes new life into ancestral traditions, offering time-tested techniques inspired by Mesoamerican medicine, Mexican folk healing, traditional foods, and herbalism. Panquetzani honors the over 4,000-year-old traditions of her foremothers and integrates her 16 years of study into her practice. She comes from a matriarchal family of folk healers, growing up with bedtime stories of magic, miracles, and deep transformation. These impactful narratives have led Panquetzani to believe that all people have innate wisdom that can revolutionize their own well-being and that of their families. As a holistic womb counselor, complete wellness coach, traditional birth attendant, and foundress of Indigemama, Ancestral Healing, her goal is to support, educate, inspire, and gently guide her clients and students. On her days off, you'll find Panquetzani fermenting, writing, preparing herbs, playing music, and exploring nature with her sons. Welcome. I am so excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
So you just let me in on a very wild little tidbit. I always start these interviews with the question, how did you grow up? What was the culture of your home? And how did your journey bring you here?
Yeah, well, like I was telling you, I grew up in Echo Park, which is, one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview. I was like, oh, Angels from Mi Vida Loca. And back then, that film was one of the only reflections of how I grew up. My mom was a teen mother. She was 16 when she got pregnant, 17 when she had me. And she experienced a traumatic hospital birth. And she was the first one in our generation to have that really ugly experience of giving birth in a hospital, being disrespected, and her body not being trusted. And so my abuelita, who is a curandera, who gave birth to 8 children naturally, who had traditional postpartum care, pretty much saved me as I was birthing. She saved me from a cesarean and protected my mother and guided my mother throughout the whole pregnancy with traditional foods. And I was a really healthy baby. I was really big, 9 pounds, almost 10, 2 feet long.
Wow.
And so, yeah. Yeah. And so that birthing experience for me, I feel, is my coming into this work. Being born in between two worlds, the world of the traditions of my abuelita, where I was able to hear her stories. And she was born at home with a partera, with a midwife, and very gently. And then she received traditional care for her postpartum. And then being born with bruises in my eye, and, they used the vacuum and the speculum, and I cried for weeks after I was born because I was in pain and because I was scared. And my mom didn't have the tools to really recognize that, oh, my baby is traumatized. My baby had a traumatic birth, because she was dealing with her own trauma with birth. So I feel like that's my coming into this work, where I'm going back to the root of who we are for health, for reasons of wellness and for reasons of health. Yeah, and it's been a lifelong journey growing up with my abuelita. I lived across the street from her my whole life in Echo Park. I thought everybody was like her. I thought everybody's abuelita was like mine. So it was very normal to me to see family members being cured by a limpia with a huevo, and being given traditional foods made from scratch with hierbas from her garden and fresh meat. And yeah, I thought that was really normal until in 2007, 2008, when I became pregnant with my son. And I was looking for peers, because all of my information came from my abuelita and her friends, her curandera friends. I was looking for peers, but I couldn't find anyone. I couldn't find a doula of color. I couldn't find a midwife of color in LA, and this is early 2008. And it was really disappointing to come into this really special time in my life where I'm blossoming as a human being, as a woman, as a portal, as a channel to the earth, and feel so alone in it. And so I gave birth to my baby. My abuelita was there to support me. It was beautiful. It was orgasmic. And at 6 months postpartum, I decided to do a training and go deeper into the birth work. Because during my orgasmic birth, I just had this moment of clarity where it looked like the sky opened up and there was this bright light shining on me, and I just felt like the universe was saying, because you had this beautiful, amazing birth, you know, this was our gift to you, and now you need to help other folks give birth the way you have, you know, so easily, gracefully, and naturally. And that was my first affirmation that I should be on this path that I'm on. And ever since then, it's just been affirmation after affirmation.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible, incredible story. I'm actually tearing up because your birth experience was very different from mine. And also because I have been in media for most of my life, and most of the pictures of birth, of women birthing, are not beautiful. They're not orgasmic. We're always shown pictures of screaming women and traumatic births and pain. And when you describe an orgasmic birth, it's almost unheard of, but you describe it with such clarity and love and reality that in my mind and in my heart, I can touch that, I can see it. And that's why I wanted to interview you, because moving forward, it's not something that I can have myself, but it's certainly something that I want people who follow me, people in the world, to understand is possible for them. I definitely want to hear more about your practice. First of all, I'm shocked that you're from Echo Park, because that was just an extra little cookie from the universe. It was just a little God shot, a little like bendición that really, really reminded me that, you know, everything happens in a full circle. So you're in Orange County now.
I'm in Long Beach right now. Yeah, I actually got gentrified out of Echo Park. Back in 2004, I had to move out for a few months because of a mold issue. And when I came back, it was just a whole entirely different neighborhood, and I could not afford to live there anymore. So I moved to Long Beach.
Yeah, just another Echo Park tragedy.
Yeah.
So we lost like a gift like you from the city of Los Angeles, but you do practice in LA County as well as Orange County.
My office is here in Long Beach, California, and my practice has shifted. So I started out doing birth work in LA and Orange County and attending births and helping folks birth naturally and beautifully and helping them recover postpartum. And at that same time, I was in an apprenticeship with a sobadora in East LA, and she knew I was a doula. And it was very casual. She was like, oh, te voy a enseñar para que les ayudes a tus clientas. I'm going to help you out so you can help your clients. I'm going to teach you. And this teaching lasted very informally for 2 years before I started working on my own. I would bring all of my clients in, she would work on them, and then she'd show me all the work that she was doing. And then I would kind of repeat that on the next person. And so little by little, I had my hands work on more people. And finally, there were so many people coming in and out of her house where she worked from that she was like, Panquetzani, ya no me traes gente. Like, don't bring me anybody anymore. And so I started telling my clients, you know, she was adjusting their wombs and fixing their hips and just helping them come back together after birth or preconception for fertility. And so I started telling them, I'm sorry, you know, she's not accepting anyone. And they're like, but Panquetzani, you've worked on me tons of times. Why don't you do it? And I refused. I was like, no. Like, in my mind, to be a sobadora and to do that work, you had to be an elder. I only grew up seeing elders doing this work. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they were like, just do it. I trust you. Come on. And so I did it. I did the work, and I found it really easy. And it was very intuitive for me. It was just something that I did for all of my clients for free. And then little by little, they started bringing me people who were not my clients. And those people brought their friends, their family members. And before you know it, my house was like a community center. And so I got tired, and I actually got burnt out. I was feeding them because, that's the Mexican way. People come over and you feed them. And so feeding them, feeding their kids would play with my kids. They'd make a big mess. They'd tear up the backyard, having fun, dirty up the house. And so at the end of the day, when people were finally gone, I was just so exhausted. And I had a moment of clarity once when my ex-husband came home and he saw the house pretty much in shambles. He saw me so tired. My kids were grouchy because they were so excited. They hadn't eaten all day. They were playing with their friends or the new little visitors that were there. And then there was no food in the fridge because my guests that were coming in and out ate it all. And so he came home and I was like, I need you to go to the grocery store right now and get this and get that so I can make dinner. And he was like, no, you're on your own. Like, you did this. Look at this. Like, the kids are a mess. The house is a mess. The kids are crying. And I'm like, no, I don't need to deal with this. And he left. And it was a big a-hole move, hence the ex part of the husband. But it really taught me that I'm on my own. And if I don't take care of myself, if I don't value myself, then nobody's going to take care of my family. I have to take care of my family. And so I started charging a donation. So I started, just asking, hey, if you want to give me money, that's cool. Nobody left me donation. And that upset me because I felt like I had worked so hard and given so much with all of my heart, just expecting nothing back, just helping people. Because I had this skill and this don, I wanted to help them, and I felt it was my obligation. But they didn't care about my survival. They didn't care about my wellness. They didn't care about my children and feeding my children. So I said, F you guys, I'm charging. So I started charging a little bit of money, and I didn't have any clients for 3 weeks. And I was like, whoa, this is real. I am not going to work. I'm not going to make money. And so at that time, my ex-husband also said, you know what, like, this doula stuff is not cutting it. You need to get a real job, a 9-to-5. So I started searching online, set up a few interviews. And before I could find a job, I had all these emails and folks calling me and setting up appointments. And that's how my practice began. I didn't have to do anything that I didn't want to do. I just kept doing the work that I am meant to do, and it's been super smooth ever since then. That was 2010. And then 2011 is when I finally decided to build a presence online and not be scared of showing my face. Because it's kind of a scary thing when you're doing something alternative and weird that maybe a lot of people don't understand. It kind of broke through my shell. And yeah, I've been self-sustainable ever since, doing what I love.
What an amazing story on so many levels. First, I want to address the whole, you're doing a good work, so you don't deserve to get paid. I think so many people have that, and thank you for bringing up that issue. I definitely work with a lot of artists, a lot of creatives, anyone in the holistic field, anyone in the spiritual practice field. There is that non-acceptance of being paid for this thing that you have, this talent that you were given, that unless you decide that you're going to value yourself enough to charge for the work. There's two sides to that. One is that, well, you love to do it, so you shouldn't be charged. That's the crazy thing, right? That's craziness. And then the second thing is that
Yeah.
I can't even take it that, you doing this incredible work, it took you that time to value yourself, to be paid. But this is a story that is so common, and that you went through the transition. It really wasn't a long transition, but I imagine that it was still scary nonetheless, because 3 weeks was nobody. Going from like the crazy house on the block to nobody showing up was probably a scary thing, but you held firm and ultimately it paid off.
Yeah.
So, and then I want to also address you talking about coming out of your shell and allowing your face to be seen. Tell me what it was like to overcome that fear of judgment, or what that process was like for you.
Yeah, it was pretty scary, especially because of the sobadora and the curanderas that I had worked with in the past. They were super underground. Some of them were undocumented, so they didn't want to attract attention. Some of them were afraid of the law, and they feel like the work that they do is highly illegal and that they're often persecuted for the work that they do. And there are a lot of stories of traditional healers being misunderstood in the eyes of the law and being arrested. And so that reality and that trauma, just like you learn from your teachers, I kind of picked that up. And so that was one element. And then the other element was my age. I was in my 20s, and I hadn't known anybody in their 20s to do what I was doing. There was that feeling of worthiness. I don't know if I can or should be doing this because I'm so much younger. I don't have a lifetime of experience. Maybe I shouldn't be teaching or promoting myself. And then also in my heart, so I had to overcome that conflict. One of the things was just out of necessity and demand. Before I knew it, I had this crowd of clients and students who were like, please, Panquetzani, please show us. Teach me how to do a correct vaginal steam. Teach me how to do a correct sobada, or teach me how to work on my hips. Teach me how to make this healing food. Teach me how to work with these herbs. And I had so many people ask me, and I'm a practical person, and I had a family. So I was like, look, you guys, I'll just put you all in one room and do it together. And so out of their asking, that kind of broke me down, and I was like, fine, okay. Kind of like a little kid, like when you just give in to the child and you're like, fine, okay, I'll bite the bullet, I'll give up my pride. So that's what I did. And in the workshop, I thought it was gonna be like a tiny little thing that was intimate with all of my clients. But I put it on Facebook, and actually no one I knew showed up, and it was all new faces except for a couple of them. And I was like, what do I do with these people? This is kind of weird. I haven't built relationships with them. And then one of them asked, hey, Panquetzani, so where did you learn all this stuff? And I kind of froze, and I was like, oh, shoot, like, I'm not credentialed, I'm not certified. I didn't go to university to learn this. And I was just like, yeah, I learned it from my grandma. And everyone was like, cool, wow, tell us more. And I was like, okay, like you value me. You're asking for my work. You're asking for my teachings. And that shifted my own mindset and helped me see who I am more clearly. Just like the way I had to go through that struggle and that trauma of not having enough to call in abundance so that I can value myself. In that same way, energetically, when folks were like, oh, cool, you didn't go to university and learn this, but it's still valuable and we still value you and we're still going to be here, support you and pay you money, and we want to learn what you learn. That was just like a wake-up call for me. If I have all of these people asking me, requesting my work, then it's because there's a deep need in my community. There's nothing like this going on here. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to take one for the team and be brave and do what I need to do. This is my obligation. In the past, before I had kids, I was a filmmaker. So I loved documenting. I loved taking photos. I loved making things look beautiful. And then as an educator, you know, my grandma was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. I'm a teacher. And so I loved mixing the two together and then just being honest with who I am. I'm an important element in this movement.
I'm so overwhelmed. Like I'm emotional right now from all of the things that you shared. And I feel like it's a running theme in our lives as women of color. The idea of waiting for someone else to authenticate our experience.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's awesome, like I read this complex bio. In the first few lines, you tap into 4,000 years. Who on this planet has 4,000 years of education? But when they honored you by recognizing that you had learned from your grandmother, they honored a lineage that goes back that far to a time where paper documentation wasn't given as much importance as the real soul listening. You were blessed with a very clear, when your purpose was revealed, it was revealed with power. You know, sky opens up. That's pretty darn clear. That's only one part. That's only the very beginning of your journey. The whole follow-up, the so many times that you said, yes, I will. The universe is why you are where you are, why you help so many thousands, why I love sharing your story, because you're saying yes to all the things that you were afraid of has ultimately led you to helping hundreds, maybe thousands, because now that you coach coaches, you don't know how far this teaching goes. And so I just want to personally thank you, not only for doing this interview, but for also doing the work that you've been called to do, because every time someone says yes to doing what they are called to do, we all benefit. So on behalf of all the happy babies now out there because their moms' wounds were adjusted, and for all the women now who, you know, are battling other things because of not being in touch with their bodies, I want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, you just launched a workshop online?
Yeah, so you were talking about being afraid and doing things anyway. I feel like that's my constant process. It's just like I have to do things and I'm scared, but I'm like, okay, universe is saying doing it, so I'm going to jump in all the way. Hosting my first online summit. The story I was telling you about having folks and teaching them about herbs and, you know, self-wound care, self-massage, vaginal steaming, that happened 5 years ago. And so I'm paying homage to that by hosting a free online summit. A lot of my students that were there and that have attended the Matriz y Concha workshop have gone on to be amazing herbalists and teachers and healers and community workers and midwives. And all of the folks who are teaching at the summit are former participants in Matriz y Concha. I actually wanted to do an in-person thing because I'm good at that. I know I can do in-person events, but I'm pregnant now, 7 months, and it's really close to my due window, and I didn't want to go anywhere. And so one of my my tech assistants, she's like, yeah, you should just do it online. And I was like, wow, let's get started. And so, yeah, we're organizing it. We're figuring things out as we go along. And finally, we're a month behind of the enrollment period, but everything now is worked out and seamless and beautiful. And yeah, and indigemama.com/matriarchal2018, you could sign up for free to hear a bunch of my students, 30 hours of presentations on ancestral healing, hierbas, natural birthing, postpartum, and self-care and self-love.
Okay. This is just the best interview ever. I didn't even know that, but wow. How can people get in touch with you in other ways?
I'm online kind of everywhere at Indigemama on Instagram and Twitter, Indigemama on Facebook, and also Indigescuela. If you're interested in like workshops and classes, I have a separate Instagram for Indigescuela. And indigemama.com on my website. You can also email me at heal@indigemama.com. Heal, HEAL, @indigemama.com. Indigemama is INDIGEMAMA. So yeah, you can find me a bunch of places.
Panquetzani, thank you so much. You are 1,000% light. And I super appreciate this interview.
Thank you so much, Angel, for reaching out. I'm so glad we got a chance to connect.